His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at Safriya Palace the Minister of Housing and Urban Planning Amna bint Ahmed Al Ramehi, who presented to His Majesty the updates on the project to preserve the historical and cultural identity of Bahrain's buildings and cities, revive Isa Grand Palace and develop the city of Muharraq in a way that preserve its historical and cultural identity and implementation of the royal order of His Majesty the King. She presented to His Majesty a brief on the project's executive plan, which the government team is working to implement within an area of 1.4 million square meters, noting that the plan includes the implementation and restoration of 2,000 housing units, 300 of which will be implemented in the first phase, where the private sector will be involved in the implementation. She added that future residential units will be restored and 72 green squares with an area of 12,000 square meters will be provided in the project's neighborhoods, in addition to planting 100,000 trees. The project also includes developing 48 kilometers of movement corridors. His Majesty praised the sincere national efforts made by the Minister of Housing and Urban Planning and all the ministry's employees in preparing and implementing many housing projects in various governorates of the kingdom, preserving the cultural and historical identity of its cities and buildings, preserving their ancient heritage and history, and working to develop the city of Muharraq. His Majesty affirmed the authenticity of the city of Muharraq and its people and their continuous giving and expressed aspirations to their return to it, noting its remarkable role in Bahrain's historical journey and the richness of its human heritage of authentic civilizational and cultural components. His Majesty also praised the location of the Purling Path, located in the heart of the city of Muharraq, which is one of the most ancient cities that is registered on the UNESCO World Human Heritage List, which is a witness to the historical and cultural identity of Bahrain and the cultural, economic and social value that the pearling sector represents. His Majesty affirmed his keenness to develop the various cities and villages of Bahrain for the comfort of the Bahraini citizen, who will remain the main goal of any development and social plan and program, noting that the kingdom places at the top of its priorities enhancing the components of a decent life and sustainability for all the people of Bahrain. For her part, the minister extended her great thanks and gratitude to His Majesty's generous directives, stressing the progress of this large, vital and important project in implementation of His Majesty's noble order. She added that since the beginning of the implementation of the project, a guideline for restructuring in urban heritage areas have been launched, in addition to appointing the specialized consulting company to develop designs for developing the neighborhoods of the old city of Muharraq and building and restoring the housing units scheduled in the first phase of the project, in addition to issuing decisions to acquire a number of the properties located within the development areas. The minister affirmed the determination of the government agencies participating in the executive plan to move forward to continue the implementation stages of the project according to the timetable prepared for that in implementation of the order of His Majesty the King and the directives of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, and in a way that meets the aspirations of the people of Muharraq. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at Safriya Palace artist Abbas Al Musawi, where he was honoured to present to His Majesty artistic paintings inspired by the stable of royal horses, in addition to a number of artistic paintings that deal with Bahrain's ancient civilization, which comes in light of the interests and aspirations of His Majesty the King in preserving the authentic national heritage. He also presented to His Majesty a brief on the Art Peace Festival project, which was launched 30 years ago and aims to raise awareness of the importance of preserving the environment. His Majesty the King expresses thanks to the artist Abbas Al Musawi for this gift, expressing his admiration for these fine works of art, noting the artist's creative and developmental capabilities and his keenness to improve his artistic product, wishing him continued success. His Majesty praised the generosity of creative Bahraini artists and their contributions to enhancing the civilizational and cultural status of the kingdom through their distinguished artistic works and productions. The cities and villages of the Kingdom of Bahrain received great attention in developing them and preserving their identity under the prosperous era of His Majesty the King. His Majesty's order to develop the city of Muharraq, which was undertaken by the government headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, emphasizes the importance of the city and its high status to His Majesty the King. More in this report.
With these feelings of loyalty and belonging to the leader of the nation, the people of Bahrain and Muharraq express their thanks and appreciation to His Majesty the King for the attention and care the city receives from His Majesty, who affirmed in more than one forum the status that Muharraq occupies as a historical Bahraini city. His Majesty's visits to Muharraq Governorate during his prosperous reign are celebrated by its people, and now Muharraq is witnessing radical development and reviving its neighborhoods following His Majesty's directives. In implementation of the Royal Order in October 2023, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister directed the commencement of immediate procedures for the development plan of the city, including expropriation works, detailed designs and implementations. His Royal Highness also directed the acceleration of the completion of the Purling Path project, stressing the government's honor in assuming responsibility for implementing high royal orders. Muharraq is a city of nobility and authenticity, and its history extends within the civilization of the nation, which is a source of pride. From these starting points, the kingdom's relevant ministries began joint work in order to fully implement the project in the city. Between the past and the present, and in the alleys of Muharraq, the people of Muharraq noticed the extent of development that Muharraq witnessed over the course of 25 years during the prosperous era of His Majesty the King, whose royal order came to constitute an affirmation of the status of the city, continuing to preserve its identity for its important history.
Welcome back. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa issued Decree 55 of the year 2024 authorizing the amendment of the Memorandum and Articles of Association of Bopco Energies BSC based on a proposal by the Minister of Finance and National Economy and following the approval of the Cabinet. According to the provisions of Article 76 of the Commercial Companies Law promulgated by Decree Law 21 of the year 2001, it is authorized to amend the Memorandum and Articles of Association of Bopco Energies BSC. His Majesty the King also issued a Decree 56 of the year 2024 restructuring the Board of Directors of Bopco Energies BSC based on a proposal by the Prime Minister and following the approval of the Cabinet. The Bopco Energies BSC shall be restructured and chaired by the National Security Advisor and Secretary General of the Supreme Defence Council, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa. The board shall consist of the following members: Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa bin Salman Al Khalifa, Vice Chairman; Dr. Muhammad bin Mubarak bin Dana, Member; Khalid bin Amr Al Mehi, Member; Faisal Muhammad Al Mahrous, Member; Abdullah Jihad Al Zain, Member; Hadiya Muhammad Fadala, Member; Bob Warren Dudley, Member; Tony Hayward, Member; and Mark Thomas, Member. The term of the Board of Directors shall be 3 years and could be renewed. His Majesty the King also issued Decree 57 of the year 2024 restructuring the Board of Trustees of the Health Insurance Fund based on the nomination of the Supreme Council of Health, the proposal of the Prime Minister and following the approval of the Cabinet. The Board of Trustees of the Health Insurance Fund shall be restructured and chaired by the President of the Supreme Council of Health. It consists of the following members: the Minister of Finance and National Economy, Vice Chairperson; the Minister of Labour, Member; Minister of Health, Member; Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Member; Governor of the Central Bank of Bahrain, Member; Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Social Insurance Organization, the SIO, Member; the Supreme Council of Health Secretary General, Member; and Marwan Khalid Tabbara, Member. The term of membership for those other than the chairperson and the members mentioned in clauses 1 to 3 of the previous paragraph shall be 4 years, and the vice chairperson shall replace the chairperson in the event of his absence or unavailability. His Majesty the King also issued Decree 58 of the year 2024, reorganizing the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities based on the proposal of the Prime Minister and following the approval of the Cabinet. The Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities will be organized as follows. Chairman of the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities, followed by first, Human and Financial Resources Management, second, Management of Cultural Properties and Projects, third, Communication and Partnerships Management, fourth, Director General of Antiquities, reporting to Antiquities Department, Management of Archaeological Sites, fifth, Director General of Culture and Museums, reporting to Culture Management, Museum Management, sixth, Director General of Heritage, reporting to National Heritage Management, Handicrafts Management. Decree 15 of the year 2017 regulating the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities shall be repealed. His Majesty the King also issued Decree 59 of the year 2024, reorganizing the General Sports Authority based on the presentation of the Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports and after the approval of the Cabinet. The General Sports Authority will be reorganized as follows. CEO of the General Sports Authority, followed by first, Human and Financial Resources Management, second, Control and Audit Department, third, Executive Vice President with the rank of Assistant Undersecretary, followed by Facilities Management, Project Management, Legal Affairs and Licensing Department, Sports Affairs Department. His Majesty the King also issued Decree 60 of the year 2024, amending some provisions of Decree 60 of the year 2020 to reorganize the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism based on the proposal of the Minister of Industry and Commerce and following the approval of the Cabinet. The phrase Industry and Commerce replaces the phrase Industry, Commerce and Tourism mentioned in the title of Decree 60 of the year 2020, reorganizing the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, as well as wherever it appears in Article 1 thereof. A new Clause C is added to Paragraph 2 of the third of Article 1 of Decree 60 of the year 2020, reorganizing the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism under the following text. C. Business Services Management. His Majesty the King also issued Decree 61 of the year 2024, amending Article 1 of Decree 15 of the year 2023 to reorganize the Ministry of Municipalities Affairs and Agriculture based on the proposal of the Minister of Municipalities Affairs and Agriculture and following the approval of the Cabinet. A new Clause 6 will be added to Paragraph 4th of Article 1 of Decree 15 of the year 2023, reorganizing the Ministry of Municipalities Affairs and Agriculture, which reads as follows. 6. Department of Afforestation and Parks. His Majesty the King also issued Decree 62 of the year 2024, appointing a head of the diplomatic mission of the Kingdom of Bahrain to Qatar based on the nomination of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and after the approval of the Cabinet. Ambassador Mohammed bin Ali Al Ghatam is appointed head of the diplomatic mission of the Kingdom of Bahrain to Qatar with the title of Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary. The Speaker of the Representatives Council, Ahmed Lemsalem, held a joint parliamentary discussion with his Brazilian counterpart, Arthur Lira. The Speaker affirmed the depth of the close relations between Bahrain and Brazil in light of the care and attention of His Majesty the King and the President of Brazil with the support of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. He stressed the importance of enhancing joint cooperation, pushing forward the activation of bilateral agreements and exploring investment opportunities in order to meet the aspirations of the two friendly people. He affirmed the keenness of the two friendly countries to consolidate and spread the values of peace, tolerance and human coexistence, and to continue implementing the declaration of the Kingdom of Bahrain in South America, which launched the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence in cooperation with the Bahraini Embassy in Brasilia. The Brazilian speaker affirmed his country's pride in the bilateral relations and the development and growth they are witnessing at all levels. He praised the efforts of Bahrain supporting peace and consolidating the values and principles of tolerance and peaceful coexistence, expressing his appreciation for the initiative of Bahrain in hosting an international peace conference and its role in establishing security and stability and achieving sustainable development goals. Within the framework of parliamentary support to strengthen investment and trade partnerships with Brazil, the delegation of the Representatives Council met with the Director of Administration of the Brazilian Trade Promotion Agency, Apex Brazil. The delegation stressed the importance of opening new horizons for economic and trade cooperation, noting the existence of investment opportunities between the two countries in new sectors such as digital technology, transportation, logistics services, financial services and innovation. The delegation praised the bilateral relations and steady growth since their establishment in 1976 that are based on mutual respect and a common concern for consolidating security, stability, regional and global peace and supporting sustainable development. Coinciding with the celebrations of the Silver Jubilee of His Majesty's accession to the throne, on behalf of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, the Chairman of the Supreme Council of Health, Lieutenant General Dr. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, laid the foundation stone for the new academic building of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, RCSI Medical University of Bahrain, and in the presence of several dignitaries. The President of RCSI Bahrain, Professor Samir Atoum, affirmed the unwavering support of His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness to continue strengthening and enriching the educational process and developing its outcomes. The project aligns with the Green Campus Initiative by enhancing operational efficiency and providing further progress and opportunities to develop programs which cater to the needs of the national and regional market. The ceremony then witnessed the conclusion of an agreement between the RCSI and NAS contracting companies to establish the new building for the RCSI, which comes from a commitment to achieving a better and more sustainable future in line with the Bahrain Economic Vision 2030.
This year, we celebrate 20 years since the opening of our medical university here in Bahrain, and it's gone from strength to strength. The secret of its success is our close collaboration with the government of Bahrain, with our healthcare partners in the hospitals and primary care centres. And to celebrate this 20 years of collaboration and success, today we launched the foundation stone for a significant expansion of our campus here in Bahrain. We are doubling our teaching space, increasing our basic science laboratories to enhance research, increasing our sophisticated simulation teaching space to support postgraduate and undergraduate education of healthcare professionals. So we're enormously pleased to make this announcement today and start this project. We signed an agreement today with NAS Construction to formally start the building of the new campus, which we hope will be open in 2026.
The Interior Minister General Sheikh Rashid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa held a meeting with Paris Police Chief Mr. Laurent Nunez in France. Nunez welcomed the Interior Minister and the accompanying delegation, stressing the importance of the meeting in enhancing security cooperation and coordination between the two countries, pointing out the importance of consolidating cooperation to achieve common strategic and security goals. The Interior Minister praised the distinguished relations between Bahrain and France and the mutual keenness to enhance the prospects for cooperation in the security sector, noting the security and stability that Bahrain has that comes based on the noble royal vision of His Majesty the King and the follow-up of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. The Interior Minister pointed out that in light of the security challenges that the world is going through, more cooperation and coordination between countries are needed in order to activate modern programs and technologies to reduce crimes before they occur. He said, "We meet today within the framework of a shared history of bilateral friendship and cooperation, especially in the police field, where we work together to effectively contribute to combating crime and enhancing cooperation in the fields of internal security and civil defense." Within the process of cooperation between the two countries, the Interior Minister praised the French expertise in the field of medical emergencies, which played an important role in establishing the National Ambulance in Bahrain in cooperation with the French Centre for Medical Assistance in Emergency Situations, calling to move forward in the process of evaluating and developing the level of cooperation that both sides have reached. The two sides agreed to form a joint committee which meets periodically to follow up and coordinate in order to continue cooperation and exchange experiences. During the meeting, cooperation, coordination and capability development were discussed in a number of areas of security work, including combating economic crimes, keeping pace with the accelerating challenges in this field, and the use of artificial intelligence applications by police agencies in combating crime. Cooperation was also discussed in the areas of traffic, judicial, police and financial investigations in combating cybercrime and cross-border crimes. The Interior Minister General Sheikh Rashid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa visited the headquarters of the French Ministry of Interior and was briefed on the security preparations for organizing the Summer Olympic Games Paris 2024, which are scheduled to take place next month from July 26 to August 11. The Interior Minister inspected the Interministerial Crisis Center and the challenges that the civil security faces and was given a briefing presented by French Director of the International Security Cooperation, Ms. Sophie Hutt. The Interior Minister was given a presentation on the security systems used for the Olympic and Paralympic Games presented by French Security Coordinator Mr. Moziman during his visit to the operations room. The Interior Minister was given a brief on the Command and Control Center and the system for managing and monitoring patrols and their distribution on the ground in order to achieve rapid response to reports and emergency calls, in addition to the smart security prediction system for crimes that may occur in the future. The Interior Minister also listened to an explanation of important initiatives and innovations to combat crime. The Interior Minister General Sheikh Rashid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa met the French Director General of the National Gendarmerie, Christian Rodriguez, where the Interior Minister praised the roles played by the Gendarmerie forces and their security performance, praising the existing cooperation between the two countries in the police field. During the meeting, cooperation and coordination in the fields of training and cybersecurity were discussed, in addition to a number of security issues which contribute to enhancing cooperation. The Interior Minister praised the achievements made by the French police forces and the progress they have achieved in various fields related to combating crime and the adaptation of technologies and applications of artificial intelligence in crime prevention programs. The Interior Minister was accompanied by a delegation that included Bahrain's ambassador designated to France, Isam Abdelaziz Al Jassim, Deputy Chief of Public Security Major General Dr. Sheikh Hamad bin Mohammed Al Khalifa, and Director General of Media and Security Culture, Brigadier Mohammed bin Dana. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdelatif bin Rashid Al Zayani, participated in the consultative meeting on enhancing coordination among peace initiatives and efforts for the benefit of Sudan, which was organized by the General Secretariat of the Arab League in Cairo. Representatives of relevant regional and international organizations, foreign ministers of the countries that share the periodic summits of those organizations, and countries sponsoring the main initiatives aimed at achieving security, stability, and peace in Sudan, with the aim of coordinating the efforts made to restore peace and stability in Sudan, participated in the meeting. The minister delivered a speech at the meeting in which he conveyed the greetings and appreciation of His Majesty the King, the President of the current session of the Arab Summit, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, and their wishes to restore peace, security, and stability to Sudan. He said that Sudan and its brotherly people are suffering from a serious humanitarian crisis as a result of the ongoing military operations that have led to civilian casualties, stressing the importance of working together to find ways to end the suffering of millions of Sudanese people. He added that during the 33rd Arab Summit in Bahrain, Arab leaders unanimously agreed on the importance of solidarity with Sudan. He added that the Jeddah Declaration on the commitment to protect civilians in Sudan, which was signed on May 2023, as a result of the joint efforts between Saudi Arabia and the US, was a beacon of hope for Sudan, but failure to adhere to its provisions allowed the devastating war to continue, causing more harm to civilians and violations of international laws and principles. The minister stressed the need to take immediate measures to stop the suffering in Sudan through a collective effort that includes all parties committed to ending the crises with the support of the relevant regional and international bodies. He called for urgently taking major steps, including proposing a humanitarian truce during the days of Eid al-Adha, clearly informing the conflicting parties that the continuation of war and destruction will only prolong the suffering of the Sudanese people, encouraging a return to the negotiation table in order to reach a peaceful solution, and mobilizing support regionally and internationally to reach a political solution, exert pressure on all parties to stop the fighting, implement economic initiatives to support the economy and development programs in Sudan, ensuring the safe delivery of humanitarian aid to alleviate the suffering of civilians, and call on the international community, including the Security Council, to issue a binding resolution to stop the fighting, respecting international laws, supporting Sudanese refugees in neighboring countries, and providing financial aid to host countries. Upon the request of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani headed Bahrain's delegation to the Urgent Response to Humanitarian Aid to Gaza conference, which was held in Jordan at the invitation of His Majesty King Abdullah II ibn al-Hussein of Jordan, with the participation of the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Dr. Al Zayani delivered a speech in which he conveyed the greetings and appreciation of His Majesty the King and his wishes for this conference for success in achieving its noble humanitarian goals, expressing the kingdom's pride in participating in this conference, which is being held at a critical stage that calls for alleviating the suffering of innocent civilians in Gaza and an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the entire strip. The minister said that Bahrain, under the directives of His Majesty the King and the follow-up of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, is committed to supporting humanitarian efforts in Gaza, calling for the implementation of international resolutions and facilitating relief efforts. He added that the kingdom, represented by the Royal Humanitarian Foundation in cooperation with Jordan and Egypt, has provided humanitarian and relief aid to alleviate the suffering of those affected by the conflict in Gaza. He reiterated Bahrain's emphasis on the vital importance of achieving political and diplomatic progress to end the worsening crises in Gaza, its support for all efforts aimed at an immediate ceasefire and the promotion of peace in the region, and its support for the recent initiative announced by US President Joe Biden. He said that Bahrain urges all concerned parties, including Hamas and Israel, to seize the opportunity provided by this initiative for peace and ending the suffering of civilians, and to consider it as a pivotal moment to stop the devastating conflict, release hostages and detainees, and facilitate the delivery of aid. The minister stated that the Arab Summit held in Bahrain on May 16th adopted the initiative to hold an international peace conference in the Middle East to establish an independent, security and sovereign Palestinian state, and that the kingdom expressed its readiness to host this conference. He added that the Arab leaders also supported other initiatives to support efforts to recognize the state of Palestine and accepted its full membership in the UN, as well as providing basic education and health care services in coordination with international organizations for those affected by conflicts, especially the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Dr. Zayani said that Bahrain calls on the international community to respond to these calls for peace and support these initiatives aimed at finding a peaceful solution in Gaza, calling on everyone to work together tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people, restore security and stability in the region, and advance negotiations towards peace for the benefit of the people of the region. Upon the request of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani, accompanied by the Ambassador of Bahrain to Jordan, Sheikh Khalifa bin Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and accompanying delegation, offered their condolences on the passing of the late former commander of the Air Force of Jordan, Lieutenant General retired pilot Ihsan Hamid Shardam. The Minister conveyed to the deceased family the condolences and sympathy of His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and recalled his sincere patriotic contributions in serving his homeland and nation, praying to Allah the Almighty to rest his soul in eternal peace and grant his family solace and fortitude. The family of the deceased expressed their thanks and gratitude for His Majesty and His Royal Highness's kind sentiments, praying to Allah the Almighty to bless His Majesty with good health and happiness, and wish Bahrain and its people continued security, progress and prosperity. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani, met in Jordan the Secretary of State of the U.S., Anthony Blinken, on the sidelines of the Urgent Response to Humanitarian Aid to Gaza conference. During the meeting, they discussed the course of the close historical and strategic relations between Bahrain and the U.S. and ways to enhance bilateral cooperation within the framework of the Comprehensive Security, Integration and Prosperity Agreement concluded between the two friendly countries in order to achieve their mutual interests. They also discussed the results of the Arab Summit hosted by the Kingdom of Bahrain and the decisions and initiatives that it adopted, including the call to hold an international conference for peace and the establishment of the Palestinian state, support its international recognition and acceptance of its full membership in the United Nations, providing health and educational services to those affected by conflicts, affirming the importance of international cooperation to implement these initiatives. For his part, Blinken praised the success of the Arab Summit, stressing his country's support for the initiatives adopted by the summit, noting the continuous cooperation, consultation and coordination between the two countries at all levels. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Zayani, met in Jordan with the Minister of State for the Middle East, North Africa, South Asia and the United Nations in the United Kingdom, Lord Tariq Ahmed, on the sidelines of the Urgent Response to Humanitarian Aid to Gaza conference. During the meeting, they discussed the path of historical friendship relations and the strategic partnership linking the two friendly countries and ways to develop aspects of bilateral cooperation in various fields. They also discussed developments in the political, security and humanitarian situations in the Gaza Strip and Arab and international efforts aimed at reaching a permanent ceasefire and protecting civilians, as well as delivering humanitarian aid and advancing efforts to bring peace to the region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Zayani, met in Jordan with the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Sergei Vershinin, on the sidelines of the Urgent Response to Humanitarian Aid to Gaza conference. During the meeting, they discussed the close historical friendship between the two friendly countries and ways to develop bilateral cooperation in various fields to serve common interests. In light of the results of the successful official visit carried out by His Majesty the King to Russia and the agreements and memorandums of understanding that have been reached to enhance joint cooperation in a number of vital fields, the two sides also discussed developments in the current regional and international situation, the repercussions on regional security and stability, the war on the Gaza Strip, and the Arab and international efforts aimed at stopping it, in addition to reviewing a number of issues of common concern. The Minister of Electricity and Water Affairs, Yasser bin Ibrahim Hmeidan, met with the Tajik Minister of Energy and Water Resources, Mr. Daler Juma, on the sidelines of his participation in the International Conference of Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028. The Minister of Electricity and Water Affairs stressed the importance of organizing this conference in light of global environmental changes, noting the distinguished level of the organization and the efforts made to reach common grounds that unites global visions to ensure the achievement of water sustainability. During the meeting, the Minister of Electricity and Water Affairs referred to the efforts done by the government of Bahrain to achieve sustainability of water resources and the transition to sustainable energy, reviewing national strategies and initiatives to reduce carbon emissions by 30% by the year 2035 to achieve carbon neutrality by the year 2060. The meeting discussed ways of cooperation and a number of topics of common interest in the sectors of electricity, water and sustainable energy. Under the patronage of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, the BDF Commander-in-Chief Field Marshal Sheikh Khalifa bin Ahmed Al Khalifa deputized the Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Diab bin Sagr Al Naimi to attend the graduation ceremony of the 3rd National Defence Course and the 16th Joint Command and Staff Course at the Royal College of Command, Staff and National Defence. After the Royal Anthem, the ceremony began with a recitation of verses from the Holy Quran. The Chief of Staff then delivered a speech in which he affirmed that the Royal College of Command, Staff and National Defence has become a beacon of military education in the BDF, which always continues its scientific contribution in line with the visions of His Majesty the King and the support of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and the support and follow-up of the BDF Commander-in-Chief. The Chief of the Staff conveyed to the graduates the congratulations and appreciation of the BDF Commander-in-Chief on their success. After that, the Commander of the Royal College of Command, Staff and National Defence, Rear Admiral Abdullah Saeed Al Mansouri, delivered a speech on the occasion, followed by a brief film about the stages of the course and what it included in terms of lectures, discussions, practical applications and field visits to a number of the kingdom's institutions. Then one of the officers delivered a speech on behalf of his fellow graduates. Then a speech was given by the graduating officers on behalf of the course participants from brotherly countries. At the conclusion of the ceremony, the Chief of Staff handed over certificates to the graduates in which members of the National Guard, the National Intelligence Services, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Information participated. He also handed over master's degree certifications in military sciences to graduates of the 16th Joint Command and Staff Course, in which a number of officers from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Jordan, Egypt, Yemen, in addition to officers from the National Guard and the Ministry of Interior participated. The Bahrain Tourism and Exhibitions Authority announced the completion of preparations for the launch of the tourist passport on Eid al-Adha to encourage tourists to visit and explore Manama and spend enjoyable times in its various tourist destinations as part of the celebrations of Manama being selected as the capital of Gulf tourism for the year 2024. On this occasion, the CEO of BTEA, Sarah Ahmed Bouhidji, expressed pleasure in launching the tourist passport as an invitation to the whole world to visit Manama and explore its history and cultural treasures and its distinguished tourist destinations that combine authenticity and modern life. The tourist passport allows its holders to visit 18 tourist sites in different categories, including cultural and heritage landmarks, beaches, entertainment and dining destinations, and commercial complexes. Bahrain expressed its sincere condolences and solidarity with Kuwait over the victims of a fire that broke out in a building in Manama, which resulted in the deaths and injuries of dozens. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that Bahrain's full solidarity is with Kuwait, expressing its sincere condolences and sincere sympathy to the Kuwaiti government and to its people and to the families and relatives of the victims of the tragic accident, wishing the injured a speedy recovery. The Information and E-Government Authority IGA Chief Executive Mr. Muhammad Ali Al-Qaid chaired the committee's 10th meeting with the aim of discussing the latest developments in the committee's work and discussing its preparations for the 5th round of the Government Service Centre evaluation process, Evaluation 5. This came within the framework of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister issuing Resolution number 28 of the year 2024, amending some provisions of Resolution number 6 of the year 2022, restructuring the Government Service Centre Evaluation Committee. Al-Qaid stressed that the committee will be keen to preserve the important gains it has achieved in the field of improving the performance of government service centres and improving customer experience to be in line with the visions and aspirations of the government headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. During the meeting, a number of topics on the committee's agenda were discussed and reviewed. The Bahrain Institute of Political Development announced the opening of registration for the Ambassadors of the Nation program for this year, which is directed to students wishing to complete their studies abroad. On this occasion, BIPD's Executive Director Iman Faisal Janahi explained that the program is a continuation of the success it has achieved over the past years, adding that the program this year devotes an important part that highlights the prosperous era of His Majesty the King and introduces the most important development achievements that were achieved during the reign of His Majesty. Janahi also stressed that the program contributes to enhancing and broadening the students' horizons and making them true ambassadors for their country abroad. Those wishing to register for the Ambassadors of the Nation program can visit the Institute's website and register before the deadline given on June 26.